Hello, everyone, and welcome to Political Fixer Live. I'm Shawna Presley Vercher, the Political Fixer, and we have a really interesting and I'm hoping important show for all of you this evening. Now, we're coming to you live streaming on TikTok, on YouTube, on Facebook, on LinkedIn, and yeah, we're going deep into the heart of the enemy. We're also streaming on Twitter. So you can find me at any of those destinations at Political Fixer. That's the handle. We're going to make sure all of our volume is up here. And we're going to make sure that you have access to the information you need. Now, the topic of this show is going to get a little deeper than we normally get. So if you are new to the Political Fixer Lives, don't worry, you can still participate. We've got our entire production team here ready to take your questions and help you in the comments. So you just leave a comment and we're able to get everything done. And we'll get to as many of your questions as much as possible. Then the other thing I want to tell you is because this is a little bit of a special episode and we're going to go a little bit deeper into this topic, immediately after the episode is done, it's going to upload to YouTube. So if you miss anything, you can catch that episode usually within a few minutes. It's up there. Just go to our YouTube channel at Political Fixer. But there's a second piece for this week. If you go to Substack for free, you just go to Substack and look for Political Fixer. There's going to be a companion article to this broadcast because we're going to talk about a lot of steps and a lot of links. And we'll talk about them as we go, and we'll definitely answer as many questions as we can. But I want to make sure you have access to everything. So I want to ensure that you can get all of the links when you need them. So within minutes of the broadcast ending, you'll be able to go at Political Fixer to either Substack and get all the links, or you can go to YouTube and get the video and take notes yourself. Either way, we want to make sure you have the information that you need. And I want to make sure also that I say hi to so many of our friends that are joining us tonight. I see that Vix is on. I see Bruce, Uncle Miney, Lynn Livin, so many people joining us tonight. Thank you so much for being a part of this. Let me tell you what you're in for tonight on this episode of Political Fixer Live. We are going to take one thread in this horrific news cycle. Hey, Ray, my sis. And we are going to untangle that thread. We're going to go through what we know about that one piece, why it matters, why I chose this one particular thread, goals we would have for taking action like this. Going to show you political fixing in action, but here's what I'm hoping you will find useful, especially right now. I want to make sure that you do not feel helpless or hopeless. So this episode is going to give you 20, that's right, 20 things that you can do right now besides the old tired call your congressperson. I'm not saying don't call them. I'm not saying that doesn't matter. Quite the opposite. We're going to talk about that a little bit. But the thing is, we've got to do more because this is unprecedented times and we need to do more to disrupt. All of these things are safe. Almost everything can be done from your home, your phone, your laptop. We're going to explain each one to you and why they matter. And again, you can pick one of them. You can pick all 20 of them. But the goal here is to make sure you do not feel helpless or hopeless during this time. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about what the topic is for tonight and why we chose this particular one. This was a particularly brutal week. Let me just take 2 minutes and set the stage for you. We had an amazing live last week. Last Wednesday, we had an awesome live with so many of you, thousands of you tuned in from all over the world. And we had over 100,000 likes and we were feeling great and positive and let's go do something. And as soon as I got off of this broadcast, my phone started buzzing and we knew about the plane that crashed at Reagan International. And that was a catalyst for awful and then worse and then just more devastating events day after day after day. Now, I did write a pretty detailed article about what we know about that plane crash. And for those of you that don't know, we did just launch the Political Fixer podcast. You can find that pretty much anywhere that podcasts are downloaded. And tomorrow we're releasing a special episode about that particular crash and what we think went wrong based on the information we have so far. But we didn't get a chance to cover that here on the live before another set of awful news stories hit. So what is the news story that we're talking about tonight and why are we going into detail about it? We are going to talk about our political Political buzz story of the week. I had to pick one. I'm going with the takeover at the Treasury. We're going to talk about the takeover at the Treasury. What is happening? If you haven't heard about it, it's okay. Not a lot of people have, and there's a reason for that. The media is struggling with how to cover it. And there's some good reporting, which we're going to highlight, but there's some people that just do not know what to do in this situation. So we're going to explain what we know. I'm going to tell you why it matters, how it could impact you. And then we're going to get to the good stuff, which what in the heck we can do about it, right? So let's go ahead and start diving in to the Do Something special broadcast of Political Fixer Live. If you are new to Political Fixer Live, again, you can enter your comments, and we have Sarah and Eddie and Jason, or J Robot, as you guys know him affectionately here. And I want to say hey to Beckett. We've got our production team here to help you with answering your questions. And the great thing is our Political Fixer family, they also are really good at jumping in and helping with some of those questions even before I can get to them. And I see that Shri is joining us from New York City. Hey, Shri, it's so good to see you as well. All right, here's what we know about the Treasury takeover. A 25-year-old programmer at the bequest of Elon Musk. These are two private citizens, neither of which have any security clearance. Neither of them have been Senate approved for any official role, and neither of them have any type of oversight at the moment, right? All of these things are true. Yet they have gained administrative privileges to key portions of code at the U.S. Treasury Department. Now, if you're not a techie, I am a little bit of a nerd. Okay, I'm a lot of a nerd. When you have administrative access, that is usually the top that there is. There is sometimes one level higher based on the developers, but it is an extensive level of clearance directly to the code. Originally, we were told that they only had read-only access. However, Wired broke the story, which was confirmed by two independent verifiable sources. We know this to be true, and we will link you to the Wired article in our Substack at Political Fixer directly after the show. They broke the story that it was happening, and then they broke a subsequent story that said that, in fact, it was not read-only access, that the people who breached the Treasury code at the behest of Elon Musk actually had reached admin status. Okay, so what does all that mean? Specifically, they reached the portions, according to these two sources, of two very sensitive parts of our U.S. government, specifically the Payment Automation Manager and the Secure Payment System as part of the Bureau of Fiscal Services, or the BFS. Government has a lot of acronyms. Sometimes that makes it confusing to keep up, but let me tell you what those areas do, because I needed to look into this and understand it myself. This code specifically controls Social Security payments, tax returns, veterans pay, and other sensitive financial information having to do with citizens of the United States here and abroad that utilize these very critical services. The amount of money that we're talking about is equivalent to 1/5 of the United States economy. It is a very serious situation. It has been developing over the past several hours, technically over the last several days, but the media has been starting to get a handle on it over the last 24 hours or so. All right, so here's why this matters. I know it feels like it should. It feels big, but let's go ahead and break it down and say specifically what some of the concerns are that we have. All right. The first thing is access to sensitive information on pretty much all of us. Social security numbers, bank account information, your tax returns, employment information, some of your veterans' personnel records, lots of different things, okay? So all of our personal information, even if they did only have read-only access, and again, according to a Wired article that has been double verified, we have been told they have administrative access. They can see, copy, replicate, distribute any of this information. The second thing is they, with administrative access, presumably could delete users, delete information, reroute payments, cancel payments, hit a wrong button, and that could impact things like Social Security checks, and veterans pay. All right. So this is a severe issue. And I see some of you reacting to this news. And I want to assure you that your reaction is justified here and valid. My reaction as someone who does this for a living, who is used to reading shocking headlines, I had to stop and set down the phone and take a walk and then come back. I had to process it, but I've had longer to process it. And so now I've gone from anger mode to action mode. So I don't want you thinking that, that the reason that I'm calm about this is I do not care as much as you do, or that I feel like you're overreacting. This is a serious situation. But once I put that fixer hat on, I pivot to action mode. But yes, it is alarming. Now, someone mentioned that, they can't get directly into your bank accounts. This is true. To our knowledge, that the banks have their own level of security and encryption. There's no reason to think that. However, breaking a system that distributes payments that a lot of families depend on is one issue. Having data that is sensitive, that people who could commit fraud. I mean, think about what happens when people sell credit card or financial information on the black market, right? That could cause someone to be able to commit fraud. It could cause identity theft, right? Now, again, we're going to talk about action steps to try to prevent all of this, but I want to go through and outline the problem first. The other thing is they're in their coding, and we know this because they're live tweeting it. And so they're saying that they're actively changing code. And so this could cause the system to become destabilized or unreliable, right? They could sell data. And here's the other thing. They could accidentally, even if they're trying to be helpful, let's give them every benefit of the doubt here, which I do not share, but doesn't matter. Let's give them every benefit of the doubt. Let's say that they are just frantically doing something they think will help. By doing so and doing it quickly with no oversight or testing on a live server, they could create a gateway that would put us vulnerable to hackers, foreign intel, cyber attacks, things like that. So it might provide a gateway for people who do not have our best interests at heart. All right. And someone's bringing up, I think it was Lindsay, said, remember when China and TikTok having our data was the problem? Right. Exactly. Which, to answer one of the other questions that I'm seeing here, which is, how are people allowing this? Now, we have seen some members of Congress, including Maxwell Frost from here in Florida, go to the Treasury Department and demand access and to know answers. But right now, people are not being let inside. Government employees who tried to stand in their way, such as Social Security service administrators that were in the building, were escorted out when the workers didn't want to give them that access. People are trying to stop it. Okay, so this story is a big story. It is a developing story. But now let's talk about what we can actually do. All right, because we can't all get in our cars, nor should we, and just go to DC and then bang on the Treasury doors. That is not a good idea. But what can we do to try to enact change? All right, so there's a lot going on right now, but there's a reason I chose this story to focus on. First of all, I do believe that it could impact a lot of us in a negative way. Again, even if they have good intentions. The second thing is, a lot of people don't know about it. And it's the type of thing that would incite action and caring because it could impact them. So in a weird way, it's a unifying issue. It's not hard to understand. Someone without security clearance, who's a private citizen, who's 25 years old, has administrative access to the Treasury data. Less than 30 seconds, and I get the gist that something isn't right. The other thing is that right now, we need to show people that there's a problem without relitigating all of the election stuff, right? People just voted for that guy 5 minutes ago. Not all of us, but many people did. This has nothing to do with him directly. Another discussion for another time. But you don't have to pierce that Cult 45 veil to get through to people. You have an unelected person who is Elon Musk, and an unelected, not even experienced person who's the 25-year-old, who are in our Treasury unsupervised. So you can kind of pierce through some of that instinctual, I'm going to defend him at all costs, and actually have a chance of reaching people who are moderates, who want to see this specific situation change. It is a bridgeable gap. So with that in mind, what are the goals of us taking action? I know a lot of us want the big ones, the consequences, right? These people should be found. They should be arrested. They should be sued. People should lose the elections. All of those are great goals. Those are longer term goals. That is not the goal of actually the next 48 to 72 hours to a week to 2 weeks to whatever this requires. The goals for these actions are, first of all, to create enough political pressure that the people with power can actually force them to stop what they're doing. That's the number one goal. To create that political pressure, we need to make sure that we unite people against a common idea and it stays away from some of the divisiveness. Again, focus on the fact that it's an unelected, unsupervised person with no security clearance. Leave 47 out of it if possible, right? We also want to make sure that there are people that seem impenetrable, like Elon Musk, but he has 6 people that are 19 to 25 years old that are helping him with this. They are more vulnerable and more susceptible to congressional inquiries, lawsuits, threats of being arrested, that kind of thing. We can discourage that help and slow them down by pushing other people to act. We can also cause certain members of Congress to care enough to get involved. I know that sounds crazy because especially right now it feels like no one cares, but the thing is, enough political pressure applied in the right spot at the right time can cause some people to act in a very specific way, right? And that's what we're looking for. We're looking for this very specific thing to change. And the other thing is, we want to make the media report on this. Now, let me explain why it hasn't been widely reported on yet, though it's starting to get there. First of all, developing story. But here's the reality. Technology crime is complicated. It's hard to explain. There's not a lot of visuals that you can point to if you're a 24-hour news broadcaster or a local news journalist. And it is not something that people are comfortable talking about. When you start talking about code and hackers and things like that, it gets really uncomfortable for your average journalist really, really fast. I don't think it's an accident that Wired was the organization that ended up breaking this story. You have a lot of technology people over there that understood it, right? So you have to kind of push through that discomfort and show them that their audience wants this, that they'll be rewarded with more coverage, with more ratings, with more approval in their communities if they cover this. And that is why we need to make sure to push the media as much as we push these other people. All right. If you're just joining us, this is a special episode of Political Fixer Live. As soon as this broadcast is over, within moments, usually a few minutes, the complete broadcast will be on YouTube at Political Fixer. So if you miss anything, if you need to take notes, if you need to step away, because we're going to get through a lot of content tonight, that's okay. You can get it for free there. We're also going to be mentioning links. And when we do that, it's hard to share those in the chat. Right after this broadcast is done on Substack for free, you'll go to Political Fixer and you'll see all 20 of these steps with the links right there. So any link we mention, you'll have ready access to. All right. And you can also share this on replay with other people. Thank you, Sarah, for that. I want to stop and take a couple of questions here and comments. So Queen of the South, love the handle, by the way, said 7 unelected, non-qualified, non-government workers are stealing our personal property. Now, I want to be clear. We don't know what's happening with the data, but Queen of the South is correct. Accessing, viewing, getting into our Social Security and veterans information is in and of itself a crime. Just to be clear, I'm not an attorney, but that one's a pretty easy one to understand. However, it's only a crime if there's accountability. And so what will happen, I don't know, but this isn't a situation of let's wait and see if they do something bad. By nature of them accessing unsupervised personal financial data of Americans, they have violated the law. Right. And so Andy brings up a good point. If we had a normal Supreme Court, this is something they could take on. Hey, Kibbles, good to see you. This is so true. But again, we are in a point where we cannot rely on others to save us. And so we are going to be moving forward with doing what we can to create civil political discomfort. That's what we're doing here. Essentially, we need to make it more uncomfortable for people to not do something than it is for them to do something. Most politicians don't want to do anything because it's not safe. They don't know if they'll say the wrong thing, do the wrong thing, anger someone. That's why they do a lot of committees and not much else, right? But if you make them more uncomfortable by saying do something or there's a bigger problem, you can force them to act. Again, not usually very boldly and not usually very often, but I promise you this is true. It is how I get legislation passed. It is creating discomfort. Weird job, I know. But let me show you some of my tricks. So we're going to go through these. These suggestions are going to be in order from the most defensive, literally how do you defend yourself and your data, on up to the most assertive. So we're going to go through them one at a time. And then again, they'll be on Substack right after the broadcast. Okay, the first thing is, you heard me say tax information. There is something you can do right now to feel more secure filing your tax return. Tax season is right around the corner. For free, any American can go to irs.gov. That's irs.gov. And again, we are going to be putting all of this on the Substack and in the links after the broadcast. And you can request a PIN, P-I-N, just like an ATM PIN, to be added to your tax return. You just fill out a form and you say, I want a 6-digit PIN. Do not lose it. Give it to someone that you love that has a better memory than I do. Write it down somewhere secure, not somewhere easy to be hacked, but you want a 6-digit PIN that makes it to where you can't file your tax return without that PIN. Now, why would you do that? Because if someone does have your social security number and they have your job information and they have all this stuff about you, they could file your tax return and do something with that money before you get it, or mess up your data or something like that. So this is free. It takes 5 minutes. It's the first step. You can add a PIN so that you are the only one that can actually file your tax return. Okay, so irs.gov, get an identity PIN, P-I-N. And again, we'll put the direct link to that page in the Substack. The second thing you can do, it is free. It is called putting a freeze on your credit. It sounds bad, I know, but I looked into this. It's not. This was not my idea. Someone on Blue Sky shared it. Yes, I'm on Blue Sky, TikTok family. I know you've been asking me to go there. So it's already paying off. So someone on Blue Sky suggested this. I didn't understand it, so I looked into it. So it sounds like something bad, but it's not. And I got this directly verified with the credit agency. When you put a freeze on your credit, you have to contact the different credit bureaus and say, I want this frozen, which means they have to reach out to you if they're going to run your credit, approve any type of line of credit, or ask, if you're looking for a loan, they'd have to unfreeze it. You can turn it on and off as many times as you want. And what I'm going to do on the Substack is I'm going to link to an article I found by Experian, one of the credit agencies, that has a blog article that says everything about this, what you can do, how it works, and why. Now, why would you want to freeze your credit? Because if someone gets your information, like your social security number and some identifiable information, they can't go get a bunch of credit cards in your name. So if they tried, they'd fill out an application and the application would come up and say, this is frozen. I'm told not to approve this. Okay. There are some services that you can pay like $10 and they'll do this for you. I don't know which ones are reliable. I don't know which ones to use. What I can tell you is that you can do it for free. You just need to contact the 3 credit unions credit bureaus. And so we'll put the link on how to do that. That was provided to us by Experian in the Substack. So your second thing is to defend yourself. Make sure that you add your a temporary freeze on your credit. Okay, we're going to move on to the next level of steps, which is educate your communities. There's some specific things we can do this. And I see Sarah adding the credit bureaus. Thank you, Sarah, as always. So I want to take a couple more questions. The Gems Goddess says, I'm a federal employee with clearance, and I would not even be allowed to access that information. Yes, my mom worked in the federal government, and the amount of steps that she had to take in our own house to keep personnel records and things safe of the people that worked underneath her when she would like work from home over the weekend. It's usually highly classified, highly secure, highly respected information. This is a seriously concerning situation. And Kelly Fraser asked, does this break HIPAA laws? Kelly, that's a great question, especially when we're talking about accessing the veterans' information specifically. The short answer is, since it's the payment systems, I don't know what files are contained there and which are not, but I would err on the side of caution, and I would ask someone, if you have files you're worried about, call that agency. And we're going to go more into that in just a second and say, hey, I'm concerned about my data. Is this in that system? Even if they don't have the answer, they'd have to call and ask someone. And that is a victory, because part of this is amplifying and getting more people educated about what is going on. All right, to that end, let's go to the next set of steps. And if you're just joining us, we have a special episode of Political Fixer Live tonight. We're talking about 20 things you can do right now from your phone, your home, your laptop safely with a way to try to stop this Treasury takeover. And we're going to have this episode posted after the live on YouTube at the Political Fixer channel. And then we're also going to have on the Substack, moments after the show, as fast as I can type, we're going to have all of the links that I shared here and all 20 steps. It is completely free. You just go to Substack at Political Fixer and you'll see that there. And I see some of you are pre-subscribing. I've got halfway there and then it was time to go on the air. I'll get it typed as fast as I possibly can. All right. To educate your communities. Most people do not know this is happening. It has been widely underreported. The first thing to do is please share information that is reliable that you find. It's one thing to say, there's a Treasury takeover, exclamation point, exclamation point. But now that there are organizations that are starting to break this story, and again, Wired was the one that originally broke the deeper level story. Now that you have people that have reported this stuff, you can also share the link to this live from YouTube if you would like when it's done. Anything that you think people would find helpful, share it with them and encourage them to do their own research. This is one of those times that them looking into this is a good thing, because they should start to see that this is in fact happening and that it is a developing story, and they can try to get ahead of it and be a part of the solution. The next thing is, if you have any type of audience on any social platform or a blog or your own Substack, your own TikTok, your own YouTube, please consider making some sort of content about this. You could do one explaining it, and I'll link to the Wired article in my Substack. You can rip off all my 20 steps. I don't care. Do whatever, pick your favorite 3. But item number 4 is create content to your audience. Take a piece of it at a time and try to make it where they understand it, and then encourage them to do the same. Social media advocacy is highly important, and that is why they are trying to shut it down. Well, while we still can, let's share as much as we can. Digestible bites, try to explain it, stay calm, and then try to give them at least one action step so they don't just get afraid and frustrated. The other thing is, I'm going to go old school with step number 5 here. The number 5 thing that you can do right now to help stop the Treasury takeover: email blast. Do you have an email or a text chain of people who trust you where it would be appropriate to share this? It could be key family members that kind of look to you for advice, like when they're asking you, like, hey, who should I vote for? Or what, I saw this in the news, what's that all about? Or it could be a group of people that it would be appropriate to share information with, like an advocacy organization you're part of, etc. Things are not getting through to the levels we need them to fast enough. Not everyone is very, very online like some of us are. So consider having people on email and text chains and say, hey guys, I wanted to let you know this is going on. I would encourage you to look more into the story. Here is a source of what has been happening. Please make sure your data is secure. Here's 2 things you can do right now, and tell them about the PIN and the credit freeze. You don't have to get political. I know people get uncomfortable with talking about certain topics. I don't want to do anything that puts you in a bad spot. But right there, if that's all you shared and you did it from a protection standpoint, then you could get the information in people's hands. And the more people know about it, genuinely, we believe that will be a tipping point for more coverage and more action. We are already, speaking of coverage and action, at almost 28,000 likes right now. I want to say hi to so many of our subscribers, supporters, and those of you that share your gifts generally with us, as well as your thoughts. We so appreciate the Political Fixer community. This broadcast is going to continue with the rest of the steps. We just hit number 5. We're about to go into the 2025 version of how to get elected's attention. We're going to go through some specific things there. And if you missed any of this, or if you have to cut off in the middle, or if you didn't get all the notes, that's okay. I know we're going kind of fast because I want to get them all in for this broadcast. You can either get the episode on YouTube at the Political Fixer channel, just at Political Fixer, or you can go to Substack, and you can go to Substack. It's free. We have a new Political Fixer Substack, and I will list every single link as well as all 20 steps right there. It's going to be hasty. Forgive any typos, but I'm going to get in your hands as fast as humanly possible. Buddy Love is joining us asking, what are we protesting? Not technically protesting, though. Fair question, Buddy Love. What we're doing is we are trying to raise awareness and create opposition to the U.S. Treasury takeover. Elon Musk and between 6 and 7 young individuals between the ages of 19 and 25, without security clearance, Senate oversight, or any type of supervision, have accessed sensitive systems of the U.S. government. And the story was broken by Wired and confirmed by 2 verifiable sources that they have gained administrative access to a certain part of the U.S. Treasury Department that is highly sensitive and contains, among other things, access to Social Security payments, veterans pay, and our tax returns. It is a large check processing gateway with a lot of sensitive information and some key functionality that we would notice if it stopped, I assured you. So that's what we're talking about, is this underreported story that is in development. But rather than just say, hey, this is bad and we all feel badly about it, what we try to do here on Political Fixer with all of our content is give you a call to action where we can take control and do something. So in this case, the doing something is raising awareness and creating enough of an outcry, civilly again, but to make sure that people are paying attention and that we are demanding answers as appropriate. Now let's keep going. Now again, these are organized. These are 20 steps. We just finished the top 5. They are in order from the most literally defensive. How do you defend yourself when financial information might be compromised? On to the more assertive. Do whatever you feel comfortable doing, do it civilly, and we'll have all of this on the Substack afterwards. Okay, let's talk about calling our congressional leaders, shall we? I know that people say that a lot, call your congressional leaders. I want to give you some information for congressional leaders that do not consider themselves in a safe seat. Because remember, House of Representatives, most of them are, unless there's a special election or something unusual, every 2 years, they are up for re-election. What does that mean? It means they're always campaigning and they are always afraid of losing their jobs. Trust me, I am around a lot of them. There's very little exception to that. Even people you would think would feel safe, many of them do not. All right. The average amount of phone calls on an issue that it takes to get a congressional leader's attention, if they're not one of the far fringe ones, if they actually care, I can't make you care, but if you do care, that number is 35. 35 or more phone calls, and they start to think, wait, something's wrong here. Let me tell you something. In the last couple of days, as this story has developed and others, there have been so many calls to Senate and representative people in Congress that the DC phone system is starting to collapse. You'll hear it delay. It will just ring endlessly and not ever hit voicemail. So if you are going to call your congressional leader, and I recommend that you do, just get it logged, leave the voicemail, call them at their home office. If you look up where they are, it usually has 2 offices. One is the DC office, the 202 number. The other is their home office. That is a completely separate phone system, and it is less likely to be overloaded. So try calling them at the home office. If you're local, if you feel like it would be a friendly visit, stop by and see when you can make an appointment to talk to them. They may or may not see you, but say why you're there. The person will write it down. And that has even more impact. Do not go in there all ruffled and ready to go. That's not what we're looking to do here, people. I don't have the money for your bail. Okay? Do not do anything that will get you all fired up. If you think it would be a positive visit and you can go calmly, then make sure you try to stop by and see when you can talk to them. All right? And we're going to go into talking points a bit in just a moment. All right. Here's one thing you could ask them in a quick voicemail. Ask them if they are going to do anything to either file some sort of injunction or inquiry to stop access into the Treasury data. Very simple. You don't have to name names if you don't want to. You don't have to get political if you don't want to. You are going to be asked for your name. You can say, I'm a concerned citizen and I want to know, I'm worried about this. Will you be doing anything, a congressional inquiry, any type of hearings, or any type of interference or injunction to stop this? Ask them. That is a very direct question, right? And see what their response is. But your words are inquiry, right? Hearing, injunction. You want to throw these words out there that are specific, okay? All right. Someone is mentioning the 5 Calls app. That app is free, 5 calls. It will automatically go to the different offices of 5 of your electeds for you. I will say, great app, definitely use it. However, it gets logged differently. So if you have the 2 minutes, go ahead and call that home office as well. Just my recommendation, but yes to the 5 Calls app. I can't say enough nice about it. It is a nonprofit free app, great for advocacy. Okay, let's go to step 7. The 7th thing that you can do is call your governor and state attorney. We always talk about federal. We forget about state, right? Now, let me explain why you would call your governor and your state attorney's office no matter where you live. Because when you talk about a financial crime or financial impact or something negative happening, it matters where the victims are, right? So who are the people being impacted? And no matter where you live, no matter how red or blue it is, there are people with social security numbers. There are people who get social security benefits. There are people that file tax returns. There are veterans that live in these areas. So these are situations that the governor and the state attorney should care about. Now, I know what you might be thinking, like, my governor doesn't, so I live in Florida. I feel you, but let me tell you why the call matters anyway. If they are someone who is sympathetic to this, we're going to leave the obvious political digs out of it for tonight's purposes, then guess what? A lot of people experience some losses, some embarrassment. Some of them are in their own governor's races or other situations politically. They want the win. So if you call someone who is behind this issue of not having someone hacking into our Treasury data, they are going to seize that microphone. And if there is one thing that a governor should be good at, it is seizing press attention. So look at what you just did. You helped push this out into the main. Then we just had a little sputter there. Then the reason this still would matter to them, even if they are on, very pro what's happening generally, they don't want to deal with it. They don't want the headache. So if you call and bother them, they are going to what? Call DC and say, why am I dealing with this? So it's still worth the call. Now, what are you going to ask them specifically? If you are calling a governor and a state attorney, what are you going to ask specifically? You are going to ask them if they will order a state-level investigation of this. Will they investigate this? Ooh, if there's anything a politician loves more than a committee, it's a special investigation, right? Now, again, they might not all do it, but put it out there. Ask for a special investigation into what is happening. That seems reasonable. And if you get a chance to talk to someone and get a second point in, ask them if they're willing to appoint a special prosecutor if they find corruption. Okay, all of this is spinning some wheels. Now we've got things coming from different angles. We're assembling allies. We're assembling backup, right? So Brian asked for me to repeat the wording. Absolutely, I'm going to repeat it, Brian, but also I'm going to put it on the Substack at Political Fixer for free directly after the broadcast. So when you call, you're going to say you're concerned about this. you know that it's going to impact citizens in your state, you're going to ask them if they are willing to launch a state level investigation into what is happening. And that's why you're calling the governor's office and the state attorney, right? Because you want to make sure that because the state attorney would be the one presumptively leading that investigation. And I guarantee you they don't get nearly the level of calls as a governor. So you might have some more success at actually reaching a human there, right? And then you also want to ask, if there is corruption, would they be willing to appoint a special prosecutor to go after that corruption and fraud? Now, someone's pointing out Beautiful Home is a Beautiful Home duo. I love the Canada and US. Thank you for coming here. Not all of us are mean to Canada. Is saying that you think some of the AGs are already doing that. That is great. Call them anyway if you have the time, even if you know they're doing it, because it'll support them. And they love getting calls where they have positive affirmation, right? And if you're not sure, or if your state's doing it, just go ahead and call and make the request. That is political capital, even if they've already decided to move forward. Because imagine this, they're standing there and they're saying things like, listen, we've received over 2,000 calls in my state alone. Those numbers matter to them. And other people that need to be elected in that state pay attention to those numbers. It has a very drastic trickle-down effect that is highly effective, right? Okay. We're on Political Fixer Live. We have just made it through 7 steps. We're going as fast as we can, but so much content to cover. If you missed some of it, don't worry. Go to YouTube at Political Fixer. This live broadcast will be available within moments. And then also you can go to the Substack at Political Fixer, and all of the steps with the links that we mentioned will be there for free. I want to say hi to Divine AF Girl and so many of our other, I see Guava Girl, I see so many of our Political Fixer family. We have so many lovely gifts that we definitely appreciate as a team when we're doing this work. It's a lot of research and we care about this subject, so we're so happy when you support it. And then also I want to thank all of you hitting that like button. Thank you so much. This is a tough time, and I appreciate all of you for hanging in there with us to try to dig into the heart of this. Let's keep going, all right? Again, we're going from the most literally defensive, defend yourself, to the more aggressive. So it's going to get more and more fun or Texan, depending on how you look at it. I say that as a Texan. All right. Number 8, call congressional leaders that might not be yours, but they are in very tight districts. I'm going to read a few of them out, but again, I don't want you to worry if you miss them, because we're going to have all of this on the Substack. There are five Republicans that won their race by less than 5 points. And again, they are perpetually campaigning. Now, one, I think, is a lost cause, the poor thing, and you'll know who I'm talking about. But the other 4, if they caused a fracas, then that would be enough to tip the vote. That's how close it is in Congress right now. So even if they are not your congressional leader, I'm going to give you 5 names. And again, one of them is just really a bless your heart. Okay, number 1, and we'll have all of this on the Substack, don't worry. In Iowa, Mariannette Miller-Meeks, she won her race by 0.19%. 0.19%. That is someone who is scared of her job. Call Miss Miller-Meeks. Pennsylvania, Scott Perry. Pennsylvania, Scott Perry won by 1.2%. Scott Perry of Pennsylvania. In Nebraska, Don Bacon. That one I should remember, especially as hungry as I am right now. I didn't eat before the broadcast. I got so excited to come on with you guys. Don Bacon, Nebraska, 1.85%, less than 2%. These people need votes. They cannot afford to have angry seniors that are worried about losing their Social Security benefits calling their office. In Arizona, Juan Ciscomani, forgive me if I mispronounced it. It is Ciscomani. Juan Ciscomani won his results by 2.5%. That was in Arizona, Juan Ciscomani. And Colorado, Lauren Boebert, less than 5%. We're just going to leave that out there. All right. All of these will be listed on the Substack. These are congressional leaders you can call, leave a voicemail message for, even if they're not your congressional leaders. I know we talk about the impact of if it is someone else's congressperson, just leave the message, leave your name, and that's it. right? It will still count as a call. So I would encourage you, call the close ones and get them concerned. Concerned for you, maybe, maybe not. Concerned for themselves, that is a guarantee. All right, let's keep going. We are on step 9 out of the 20 things you can do right now. Call your local TV stations and newspapers. Call them, if at all possible. Ask to speak to someone in the news desk and ask them if they are going to cover this story. Tell them that you watch them or you read their paper or whatever the case might be, and say that you are concerned and that this impacts you or someone you love. I'm going to give you a few possible talking points. Be truthful and make it your own. But you could talk about how you're concerned about filing your tax return. It might not be safe. You could say you're worried about identity theft because people now have access to sensitive information. You could be worried that you or a loved one won't get your Social Security check. Love the string of lights gift there. Then you could also be upset about how this impacts our veterans, that their pay might be impacted or delayed, right? So tax return, identity theft, Social Security, veterans, speak from the heart and ask them to please cover this. Now I want you to stop for a second and think about who watches the news. Who reads newspapers? A lot of people who receive Social Security, a lot of veterans, a lot of people that would be worried themselves about identity theft or filing their tax return in an unsafe way. If there is anything local news is built for, is to step in and cover this on behalf of their communities, right? Let a local reporter be a hero here. You can call the big ones as well as you want, but the local journalists, so many of them are still trying to do a good job. Give them a chance to step up and run with this story. That is my advice as someone, again, who has worked in many a newsroom covering many things. I think we usually go to the big guys and the 24-hour legacy big papers and all that, but go to your locals. They would jump at a story like this more often than not. All right, let's keep going. So we talked about contacting your reps, but that was a 2025 edition. Got a little more teeth in it, a little bit more creativity, bit more sauce, as we like to say in the South. All right, we're going to keep going with more things that we can do together to tackle this Treasury takeover. I cannot say that a second time. So sitting here catching my breath for a second. No, not an endorsement. I'm just texting. All right. These 20 steps are all going to be available to you on Substack for free directly after the broadcast at Political Fixer, and also on YouTube. You'll be able to get this as well as all the links. It usually takes a few minutes to upload, but it'll be there within minutes at Political Fixer. So you can watch it through double time, fast forward, grab a clip, whatever you need to do to make this useful for you. And we'll get all these resources on Substack immediately, and we'll keep building it out. I want to say as we go into the second half of this 20 here, and it's going to get a little bit, again, more Texan as we go, these steps are for this in particular, but think about the theory here of being creative and who you reach out to, getting people to care, coming up with a local angle. This playbook can be used on multiple issues you care about. So we're going to talk more about that on another night, but I just want to put that out there that this story is important. But there are a lot of important stories here. So I hope you take some of this and you run with it. I am giving you permission to cheat off my notes here and do whatever you need to do. If this makes you a stronger, better, more just confident advocate, right? Then that's what I'm here to do. So please use all of this as you would like. And you can always reach us at politicalfixer.com as you have questions. I've been ill the last few days, so I've been a little bit delayed on making videos and creating content. But I'm back on the mend, and we're gonna crush this. I know it. We can do this together. All right. Our next category is about extending your call reach beyond the regular people that get calls all the time. We talked about different ways you could call different elected officials and media outlets, but let's talk about extending the reach. Who are people that aren't used to getting this type of concerned call? Civil call, kind call, not a rude call, but still concerned, right? Do you have a retirement plan or a pension fund or something along those lines? If so, I want you to call your broker, your banker, whoever administers that fund for you, And I want you to tell them that you're worried about the security of your financial data, and ask them if they will call the Federal Trade Commission, the FTC, and look into whether or not our data has been accessed fraudulently. I'm going to say that again. If you have any type of retirement plan, savings fund, pension, something like that, reach out to your broker, your banker, your administrator, again, very politely, and say, hey, I saw that there was a breach of data at the Treasury Department that covers Social Security and financial data, including tax returns. I'm worried this might impact my retirement fund. Could you please call the FTC and get back to me with if my data is safe? Now, why would we ask someone to do that? It's not at all to get them upset or to assign blame. But first of all, they might not be aware of it. So all these calls we're about to talk about, you're educating. And if they ask you questions or they want you to share some links, that is great. Get ready with those, right? But what you're also trying to do is have people in different positions of influence in the community reach out that don't normally get as politically involved, right? If you're a politician, oh, the public is mad at me again. We shouldn't get used to that, but I can tell you sometimes they do. They kind of put that little coat of armor on. But if they're like, wait, why am I getting a call from Acme Bank? Now suddenly they might listen to it a little differently. You see where we're going here? So you're creating allies here and you're asking them to look into it and get back to you, right? The fact that they do means that someone else heard about it. Someone else heard there's a concern, right? Okay, Mrs. H asked, government retirement or investments? Yes, anything that would have a person that's a broker, but it could be your private sector. It could be your 401k. If you have someone that helps you with that kind of thing, like if you just call concerned, then that's a victory. And if you're like, I don't even know if you're the right person to call, that's fine, right? Just make that call if you have any type of retirement or pension or savings fund there. Do you use an accounting firm to file your taxes? Now, this could be for you, or if you have a small business, do you use something like H&R Block? Again, these are not promotions. I just am trying to name something we've all seen on television, right? A federal credit union. Yes, Jennifer, love that idea. Okay. If you use an accounting firm at all, like a small local firm or a bigger firm like H&R Block or something, you can call them and say, listen, I know it's tax season, and I know I'm getting ready to file, but I'm hesitant to do that unless I know my data is safe. Will you call the IRS for me and find out what they're doing to protect against this data breach? Okay, I'm going to say that again. So you're reaching out to people in the accounting sector and you're saying, I'm concerned about filing my tax return because I heard about this thing happening at the Treasury with the data. Will you please call the IRS for me and ask them what steps they're taking to secure our data? Now, why would we do that? This is something I learned years ago when I was having a problem with one of my companies. And it was something I had been struggling to get on the IRS phone line for like days and days and days. I went to a local accountant. I was like, hey, there's a mistake. Could you help me? Y'all, she had her own phone number. It was a special bat phone directly to a human at the IRS, okay? They can call people we can't call. And if they're a big firm, not only can they call the IRS and actually get someone on the other end because this is their job, but they also might have lobbyists and other influence in DC. So then those people start talking to other people who are very special and they say, hey, listen, I'm getting calls about this. Right? So that's why you want to specifically go to an accountant or an H&R Block. Now, some of you are saying, can I send an email? Right? Yes, absolutely. Just make sure that everything you put in writing, it doesn't come across as belligerent or hostile. Email sometimes doesn't convey tone. So you might, normally when I'm fired up, I have to have a friend or Sarah, who's on here, our chief of staff, say, hey, could you read this? Does this sound snarky? Because I didn't mean it to sound snarky. So you might want to do that, but also do not put any personal information in that email. Don't say, and my account number is blah, 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 which I know you know, but when we're all riled up, it's easy to forget sometimes. So yes, you can do email. Absolutely. All right. So we talked about if you have a retirement plan or a pension. We talked about an accounting firm. What if you are in a union of any type, or you have been in a union, teachers union, firefighters union, iron workers, any type of union, call your union rep and say that you're concerned and ask them if there's any of your retirement or financial information that has been at risk. All right. Ask them if they'll get their union leaders to look into this. This is really important because union leaders right now, if you are ever gotten involved at all with unions, then you've usually got someone that's in your place of business or comes by every once in a while. That's the person you talk to. Then they've got different managers and reps and locals, and it works its way all the way up to the national level. You can ask them what they've heard about it, what they know, and could they look into it. If they are engaging in conversation with you, or if it's someone you feel like you have a good relationship with or a good rapport with, you can ask them for a couple of extra things. You can ask them if they would be willing to share what's going on, a link to that Wired article or something else, something objective and not political, and share with the members what's happening and share with them how to request a PIN number for their tax return and to freeze their credit so that they can protect themselves. The first two steps we talked about. Will you notify the members what's happening? Think about the power of that, if that can happen, right? You're just trying to get the word out. And the second thing is you can say, hey, there's some class action lawsuits that are being filed right now to make sure our data is safe. Is our union joining any of those? Are we filing any of those lawsuits? I'd like to know, right? And so when we're doing that, then the unions have a lot of litigation that's happening right now. And so they can share some of the information with their locals and on up, and that can get into national contacts. All right. Next thing, we're breezing through here. We are on step number 13. Are you on Medicare? Now, one of you, forgive me, I forgot which one of you it was, asked, is this a violation of HIPAA? What's happening? We are talking about the breach of data that happened where a 25-year-old, at the behest of Elon Musk, received unsecure administrative access to portions of the U.S. Treasury Department data, the servers that include, among other things, payments of Social Security, tax return information, and veterans pay. It is a large, powerful system that not only has a lot of sensitive data that they now have administrative, unsupervised access to, but it also has the ability to cut and deny payments. So that's what we're talking about, and it is a developing story that was first broken by Wired at this level and is now being more widely covered. And if you miss any of these steps, or if you haven't found the Wired article yet, we'll share all of those links for free on the Substack at Political Fixer directly on the broadcast. Now, one of you said, especially when we're talking about veterans benefits and some of the sensitive stuff there, is there medical information? We do not know. That is part of the issue. We don't know what they have access to in this particular thing relating to medical information. So I would call your doctor's office and ask them to call a particular office. If you are on you can call the office no matter what and say, listen, I'm just worried about my HIPAA data. Can you call someone and look into this? They might call the insurance company. They might call someone that is one of their representatives, someone that's a colleague. But again, the point is to get the conversation amplified. So you can call the doctor's office no matter what. But if you are on Medicaid, I'm going to give you a few magic words that I found today for you. I wanted to know, who do they call? Like, if there's an issue like this, who do they call? There is a specific set of people, and we're going to put a link to all of this on the Substack. You want them to call the State Medicare Fraud Control Unit, the State Medicare Fraud Control Unit, and ask them at their state level what's being done. Now, there is a federal Medicaid office. I would assume their hands are quite full right now. It doesn't hurt to call them, but these offices, I believe, are the most optimal place where they could reach someone and try to get answers. It is again called the State Medicare Fraud Control Unit. I was able to go to the Health and Human Services website and get a list of all of them. There was a PDF there, so I'm going to put that link on the Substack as well. And if you want to call your state State Medicare Fraud Control Unit, then you can. Okay, so we'll put that on the Substack as well. That was step 13. Are you a veteran? Or is someone in your family a veteran? If so, veterans pay, we do know, flows through this system of the Treasury that they have gained access to. If so, how many veterans groups, community circles, your local VFW hall, any of those can you get to and ask, hey, do we know anything about this and who do we talk to? It's okay not to have the answers. You're asking the questions and that should get things elevated. And you could also ask them, who in the organization do they know that can actually get something done in DC, right? Who do we have around here that would actually get our congressperson on the phone? Let me tell you, this is one of the unifying issues, that it does not matter if you are Republican, Democrat, or Independent. You do not insult or blow off veterans. I understand we're in unprecedented times and there are certain individuals that seem like it's okay to insult veterans, but let me assure you that 90% of all electeds do not want to insult our men and women in uniform or the veterans who have served. So please make sure that if you are a veteran, you ask, can we look into this and how? Can we notify our fellow men and women who are also going to be concerned about this on how to protect themselves? And then who do we know that will actually pick up the phone and call and get something done about this, right? 15, we're at the end of this one section here. This is something that I have gone through recently. Do you have a child who is in college who deals with the financial aid office? Now, this one is a little squishy, so I'm going to walk you through what I found out. Do with this what you will. But if your family has submitted FAFSA benefits, the financial aid information, you obviously do not want to annoy/humiliate your child. I understand that. But it's okay to call the financial aid office and say, hey, I saw this on the news. I was just wondering, do you guys know anything about this? And what is being done to keep the student loan information safe? Do you guys have any information on that? That's it. It's a short phone call. It's very friendly. And again, do not do anything to embarrass your child. I say this as someone who has a 20-year-old, right? Why would you do it? Because the colleges and universities also have their own political clout, and they also have their own relationships, and they also have close access a lot of the time to congressional leaders. And if you're just calling to ask the question, it's another access point to get people talking about it. Does that kind of help? And someone said, thank you. You're welcome. I hope all of this is as useful as possible. All right. Before we get into the deep stuff, we're in our last home stretch here. We started the hour talking about what has happened with the U.S. Treasury Department. We're going to go more into detail on a couple of those points. But the reason that I am focused on this with you tonight is because we had a lot of really negative, awful headlines that just punched us in the face this week. Right? There was that saying that with knowledge increases sorrow, and man, the more I was reading, the sadder I was getting this week. Feeling overwhelmed, feeling like you can't do anything, that is part of a certain type of really dark strategy. And so we want to counter that with not feeling helpless and taking meaningful civic action. But at the same time, we have lives, we have jobs. And so I'm not expecting you to go take out a bunch of poster board and stand on the side of the road. I'm trying to give you something that you can do in your spare time. If you do it after you put the kids to bed or you're on second shift or whatever, yes, an email is perfectly fine. And also a lot of these people have voicemail systems. So absolutely do it when you have time and only do the things you feel comfortable with. But the idea is to get conversation going, to express that you're concerned, and to build allies that want to help us stop this very particular problem, which is unfettered access to a very volatile and powerful set of data and payments in our Treasury Department. Mrs. H says voicemails have been full. Absolutely right. If you can, try the home offices, but yes, voicemails have been full. And that's one of the reasons for trying these, and that's mostly of congressional leaders, trying these other ways like the veterans organizations, the FAFSA organizations, your union leaders, like all these other people in the community. We'll just do what we can. But also, yay, the voicemails have been full, right? That's great. I mean, honestly, some people said, I don't ever want anything to do with politics again. And briefly to myself, I may have said that at certain points after the last election. But look at what's happening. People are trying and they care. Never forget that. Okay, we're in the home stretch of our top 20 things we can do. If you missed any of this, you can go to YouTube at Political Fixer, or you can go to Substack for free at Political Fixer. I'm going to type as much of this out as fast as I can within minutes after the broadcast. Okay, let's go into holding the people that are doing this personally accountable. Ooh, it just took a level up, didn't it? Okay, again, I want you to do only what of this you feel comfortable, and all of it civilly. The Wired article mentioned the names of the it's between 6 and 7, that is up for debate, individuals who are assisting Elon Musk with this takeover. The reason I say it's a takeover is because Elon Musk is not Senate approved. None of these individuals, himself included, have any security clearance. And it was so bad at one of the locations, I believe it was the Social Security office, that when 2 administrators tried to physically stop them from entering the server room and accessing everything, saying that they couldn't allow that to happen, then they were threatened with physical violence and then escorted out of the premises. All of this information has been documented by really good journalists trying to do their jobs, and it has been independently verified by multiple sources and witnesses. These are not the actions of people that are doing things for our good. So yes, it is a takeover, legally, physically, right? It's something we need to get into. So these are some things that you could do. I'm going to be very careful about how I word all of this. These are suggestions as someone who does messaging for a living. You'll find all of these talking points on Substack at my Political Fixer right after this. Do with them what you will. One of the names of the gentleman who has access to some of the data, though he has access at the Office of Personnel Management Records, not at Treasury. They're attacking us on multiple fronts at once. His name is Edward Coristine. Edward, Coristine. I am not going to dox these young men. Do not worry. I'm not about to read anything personal or revealing about them. However, the mainstream press has said where they work and go to school. I have some of their addresses because it's been floating out there. We're not going to be sharing anything like that. This is only professionally related information, specifically to be used for the following talking points, all right? He is a student at Northeastern University in Boston. He currently has access to the Office of Personnel Management Records. I will be calling the Student Affairs Office of Northeastern University in Boston and asking if they have read what's happening. Are they aware of what's going on? And what action would they take if they learned that a crime had been committed? See what we're doing there? If. We are not saying he did. We do not know. We are asking for information, and we're asking what steps they plan to take if a crime ends up being committed. They're not going to tell you that. They're not going to have answers. What they're going to do is the same thing that the very nice, very tired congressional aide is going to do. They're going to write it down and pass it along. But this stuff matters, and it makes its way to people who need to see it. Okay? Ethan Chautran, spelled Shaotran, is a student at Harvard. He currently has access to a General Services Administration database, including his own GSA email address, I've been told. Same thing, Harvard. Mr. Chautran, do you know what's happening? Have you read anything? Okay, what does the university plan to do? Are you getting involved if it turns out he was involved in committing a crime? If is the word here. Civil, calm, Mr. Chautran, Harvard. Now it gets a little bit more dicey. The man who currently has access to the Treasury data, according to Wired, is Marco Elez, E-L-E-Z. We are not giving any of Mr. Elez's personal information out. Again, we have it. It's out there. Please do not contact him personally. That is inappropriate. However, if he is currently fraudulently in possession of Treasury-sensitive data, it would be highly appropriate to reach out to his congresswoman. And because I did have his personal email address, I looked up his personal home address. I looked up exactly who that was. His congresswoman is named Bonnie Watson Coleman. She's a New Jersey Democratic congresswoman. If you would like, you could call Congresswoman Coleman and ask her if she plans on launching a congressional inquiry into one of her residents who may have administrative access to sensitive information. By doing so, you have a congressperson who has been put on alert that this person lives in her district with the last records that we have. All right? But call her and give her something to do. They're getting a lot of calls of do something, do something, do something. I cannot take another performative whatever from our Congress right now. The bottom line is we're asking politicians, not warriors, not advocates. They don't know what to do. So the more we specifically say, can you do this? The better. Lead them to the water. I promise you this. So you're going to ask, will she please request a congressional inquiry to look into what's happening, right? Going to her with a specific thing with a particular name is completely appropriate. Fire and brimstone, not so much. See the difference? And that's how we keep everything on the level here. If you wanted to, you also personally could call the Federal Trade Commission, the FTC. We're going to put that phone number on the Substack, but I'll go ahead and read it now. Sarah, I hate to do this to you. If you could type it out, that'd be great. 877-438-4338. I'm going to say it again. This is the FTC, 877-438-4338. You would be calling and saying, this is my name. I am concerned that my data might be compromised. Here's the thing. You can't just leave a voicemail. Do not put your personal information in an email. You're going to have to talk to a person and give them information about you. That's why I consider it more of a deeper step. But you can say, I'm concerned about this. What can you do? And if you say you're concerned about it, not from a general perspective, but your personal data, then that is far more likely to get a response from the FTC. All right. So it's the Federal Trade Commission. We'll put that number on the Substack at Political Fixer just after that. All right. We're going to end on a positive note of our 20 here, but also very important. What are some things that you can do? Well, one thing is you can support the people who cover this for you. Right now, Wired broke this story. They scooped the Washington Post, they scooped the New York Times, they scooped CNN, and they got a double confirmed story that, contrary to what we had been told, to those of us that have been following this story for a couple of days now, no, it was not only read access, though that would be bad, but it's not just read access that Elon Musk and specifically Mr. Elez have of our Treasury data, including Social Security, tax return information, veterans pay, and more. That in fact, they have achieved, according to two verifiable sources, administrative level access. That story was broken by Wired. If you can, support journalists doing the work. Now, I am going to put a link here that I got from Wired. I do not get a commission on it. This is just something if you want to use it. It is a link for you for a special rate of $5 for the year for all of Wired online. After that, it goes up to, I think, $28 or something like that. So do with it what you will. You can cancel at any time. Again, I do not get a commission from this. I'm not paid by them. I'm just trying to support people doing the good work out there. I'll add that link in the Substack article, and I myself subscribe today. It's $5. That's a way that we can encourage people to keep doing this work. So that is your number 19 out of your 20 steps, is to please support the people, journalists, and advocates as you can doing the work and reward the behavior we would like to see. And my number 20 thing that I would like to do in a positive way is, please, in communities, including ours, if you feel comfortable, share with us either by going to politicalfixer.com or posting your content and then sending me a link in my DMs or finding me on social or emailing us. Tell us what you're doing, how we can help. Did you do a good video that we can amplify? Did you get information? Is there an article we should see? I am on Blue Sky now. I'm on there as Shawna Presley Vercher. You can find me there, but I'm also on there as Political Fixer. I'm just using both accounts because people didn't know how to find me, so we're just doing both. The difference is on the personal account, I reserve the right to weigh in on pop culture and Muppets trivia. But other than that, so you can find me on Blue Sky and you can send me any of that stuff at any time. And I would like for us to continue to grow our community. We talked about some resources we're building, and with all of this news this last week, it It is stuff that we're still working on that I will say we're a little bit behind with kind of a crazy week, but you should see more ways to connect with us in the next several days. And in the meantime, one way you can connect to me personally, if you're going to be in the Austin area, is I will be training people on the Equal Rights Amendment, Equal Rights Now, and our quest to get women in the Constitution as equal citizens. We have launched an organization called Equal Rights Now, equalrightsnow.us. That's equalrightsnow.us, as in us, as in United States. We have one mission, which is to finally get women in the Constitution recognized as equal citizens. We are so close. President Biden, in one of his final acts in office, got us one step closer, but we are not there yet. So we're going to be doing trainings across the country in person and virtually, and we can come to a city near you if you are so inclined to help everyone work together on this very worthy cause. Whether you are a woman or one of our allies, we need you to get this done. And yes, believe it or not, even in this political climate, it is possible. So if you're anywhere near Austin next weekend, I'll be doing a training at the Texas State Democratic Women's Convention. You do not have to be from Texas. You do not have to be a Democrat. You do not have to be a woman. But you can come and just join us, as well as a few hundred amazing other friends, and have a great inspirational educational weekend. And it will be capped off with a gala where I will be delivering a keynote, because you guys did not get enough of me tonight. So if you can, come to Texas, come to Austin and join us next weekend at the Texas State Democratic Women's Convention. And if you would like for me to participate in something in your area, whether it's an event or a training, or your community is doing something awesome, or you need help to get to that next awesome step, please reach out to us, politicalfixer.com, or here on TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Blue Sky, wherever it is. We've slapped our name on it, and we are there consuming as much news as we can physically handle. I'm going to honor my commitment to you to go on Substack right after this and make sure you have access to all of this information. I see so many of you asking some questions right now. So Jennifer is asking, does it cost to get into the convention? Yes, Jennifer, there are tickets, but they are pretty inexpensive, and you can just register for one piece of what you would like. And I've been told they still do have tickets available. I spoke to Coretta Graham, the incoming president, who's going to be sworn in that weekend, and she's amazing. You guys are going to love her. And she's also agreed to be on the National Advisory Board for Equal Rights Now. So if you get a chance to come in, we would love to see you. So yes, Jennifer, I would love to see you. And please message me on TikTok, but you'll see me, you'll see Sarah, you'll see Eddie, we'll be there. So find us so we can connect for sure. And Brian said, will the whole live be on YouTube? Yes, Brian Hansen Music. Would love to learn more about the music that you do at some point, Brian. You just go to Political Fixer, and usually it takes it a few minutes, maybe up to an hour, for YouTube to kind of process it and put it up there, and then it will all be there, the whole live. And we'll make sure to put the links in the comments as well. I see a lot of you saying, thank you for what we do. Thank you for being so positive. I know this has been a rough week. It's been a rough week for me as well. We have a new episode of the podcast coming out tomorrow to talk about social media, particularly the fate of TikTok. Not just what's happening, but also why. I'm hoping you guys love this one. I really get into the deep tech bro war here. So Political Fixer podcast, that new episode is dropping tomorrow. But also we have a special episode, a dual episode dropping tomorrow about the plane crash and what we know and what may have contributed to it. And there's a lot of bad news out there. So I'm always grateful when all of you come here and trust us enough to spend some of your time with us, let us come into your homes, your phones, or whatever the case might be. And hopefully you walk away feeling a little bit more empowered at the end of one of these times together than you did at the beginning, because it's going to be a bit of a crazy ride here. But one thing I hope you never forget is we are here together. No matter what happens, whenever I possibly can, on whatever platform they'll allow me to be, about once a week or so, I'm going to come here and remind you that we are a community. We are a family. We're just going through a little bit of pain right now, but we're going to get through it together. And I so appreciate you all for the gifts and the likes. I want to thank all of our Political Fixer family members, particularly our subscribers. Thank you so much. We hit over 90,000 likes tonight. Thank you so much, everyone. That's amazing. And so many lovely things and sentiments from all of you. I like to read the comments. They go so fast during the broadcast, but I'll read more of them afterwards. That's amazing. Thank you so much. I hope that we made your day or night, whenever you're watching this, just a little bit brighter. And I'm going to do my homework to get to work. Whenever in doubt, head up, not down, and make sure you look out for others. We can do this just one thing at a time, one day at a time, and make sure you take care of yourselves along the way. Until next time, on behalf of myself and my team, thank you so much for being here with us. Oh, a little teddy bear to end the night. That's amazing. Thank you. I'm Shawna Presley Vercher. Thank you to Kibble67 and Divine AF Girl and so many other of our gifters. Hey, Sarah, do we have the ability to see who our top gifters and top people on the chat were tonight so we can give them a shout out? If so, let me know. I definitely want to acknowledge everyone and thank them for everything. I see Steph on here. So many great political facts. Stephanie sent hearts right now. Thank you so much. So we'll make sure that we get you this information on Substack, and we will get to as many of you as possible with your comments and questions. Look for more content coming soon. Lots of work to do. Until next time, everyone, have a great night.